Guys, welcome to the 5th episode of Pure Grade Puroresu. It's hard to believe I'm actually still doing this. Sort of thought I'd put out a Wrestle Kingdom review, wouldn't come back to the show, wouldn't get any views, but I've gotten an okay amount of views, and I'm still like, you know what, I need to continue doing this shit. So today I'm here with a review of the double Big Japan show. So they had a show on the 13th as well as on the 14th of January. The 13th show, I believe, was called Two Was Gats Early or something like that. And then the 14th was called, like, Death Combat, I think. Maybe something about Dragon Blood? I feel like it was something about that. So, I'm just going to get some things out of the way. Firstly, don't worry. I'm going to try keep this to an hour because this was a 2-hour total runtime for the Samurai TV airing, so I should be able to get all of my thoughts and analysis out in 1 hour, so you won't have to put up with a big 2-hour show. And if you're crazy like me and you listen to podcasts on ×2 speed, then hey, that's only 30 minutes of your life that I'm taking up today, so that's even better. Secondly, going back to my 01 and... Oh, sorry, just hit the mic there. Going back to my 01 and Big Japan review from about a week ago, that's my most popular episode still. It's been gaining in views every single day. And I started to realize maybe it's getting so many views as well as like a few notable downvotes because people think that I'm actually uploading a joint like actual episode. Like they think I'm actually going to upload the 01 show as well as the Big Japan show. And that's not just me making up excuses for getting negative attention, because then I'd also be making up excuses for getting views at all. And obviously I don't want to do that. But I understand, because if you see, in the title 01 in Big Japan, and then you see like 2-hour runtime, I can understand you thinking, oh, maybe someone's taken these two shows and clipped them together. So just from the output, I just want to say, this is not what I'm doing. I'm just doing reviews. I just put the title at the start instead of, Pure Grade Puroresu, because, I'm trying to get that algorithm where it's like, maybe it's not the algorithm, but when people see the video, I want them to think, oh, this is a review. Okay, not, if the first few words they see are Pure Grade Puroresu, they're not really going to know what that means. But if they actually see, Big Japan review, then they're going to be like, oh, okay, this is sort of a niche thing of a niche that I'm already into, so I may as well, get interested in that. By the way, is it niche? I've heard, I hear Americans call that word like, I don't know, they say some weird shit. Americans are fucking weird. No, shout out to my American fans. I've got like, on Podbean, apparently I've got like 6 total listens from America, and there's one guy in Illinois who's given me 2 listens. So hey, shout out to you, dude. You're the only one of the states that's come back and support me, So shout out to Illinois. You're doing some good things over there. So, I'm doing a really extended general break. If you want, just skip ahead like 5 minutes, then all this like lame shit will be out of the way. But I just got to go through a few more things. So, following on from my comment about how, I was getting some negative, downvotes or whatever, obviously that doesn't annoy me, but what does annoy me is people not letting me know what issues they have, because, this isn't like anything political. This is just, me talking about art, and that's not me being like, oh, wrestling's, so amazing art. But, it is art at the end of the day. It's a form of media. I love talking about media. So if you've got a different opinion, just leave a comment or message me on whatever format you can. Just let me know, because, I'm interested in discussing wrestling and all sorts, especially Japanese wrestling, obviously. So, and look, the show is really small. God, I can't even fucking talk. Look, the show is really small at this point. I've only got like a dozen subscribers, that like under like 30 like plays on Podbean. The videos on YouTube have obviously been doing better because YouTube's a better platform to upload. Even with all the issues with YouTube, they're still the best uploading platform, I think. So, what was my point? Anyway, oh, that's right. My point being, this is a small show, so if you feel like, you've got something to say, leave it, because I'm going to respond to absolutely everyone who's going to leave a comment, because, I'm desperate for the views and for the audience interaction. So if you want to make a comment, even if you just want to say, AJ Styles is awesome, I'll be like, okay, that's totally unrelated to what I've been talking about, but hey, I appreciate what you've said, and I also think AJ Styles is a good wrestler, Leave any sort of mundane comment. If it's slightly related to wrestling, I'll talk about it. Well, not talk about it on the show, but, I'll give you a response, I'll give you those warm fuzzies. Next thing, and this will be like the final thing, I promise, guys. Then we get into the big Japan review, okay? Last thing, looking forward to my next series of episodes. So I definitely know that I'm going to be doing a preview for New Japan's New Beginning tour. I'm also going to do a review of the January 5th Wrestle 1 show. I'm like halfway through that, and depending on how I go today, I might actually record a review of that right after this, as long as I keep to that 1 hour time limit. Then there's also some Sendai Girls and Stardom shows that came out recently, and they seem sort of big. I saw they had some title matches on them, so I'm like, maybe I should get into these promotions and also do like a joint Joshi review. Maybe people think, oh, why are you pigeonholing the Joshi promotions? Why you got to put their reviews together? Is it because they're girls? Huh? Is that why? No, guys. I'm just, you know what, I guess, okay, you know what? I'll admit it. It's because they're both Joshi promotions, but there's a lot of crossover between the Joshi promotions. You watch Ice Ribbon, you probably watch Oz Academy and Stardom and Sendai Girls and, all that stuff. So I figured, it makes sense to do like a joint Joshi review if I have to review one or the other. So, if I end up doing that, I'll probably put them in a joint review. That'll probably be out within a week or so. There've also been a bunch of All Japan shows, but they've been mostly house shows. And I understand that there have been some mildly big events that have occurred on those shows, but it's just daunting when there's like 4 house shows that are out and they all seem to have like the same, oh god, sorry, there's my phone going, guys. They all seem to have like the same sort of like matchups on these house shows. So it's like, oh, should I really bother watching these? I'm sort of waiting for like a big show, or at least a Korakuen show, or at least just a general show where there's more titles on the line, because that's what I consider like the big shows. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get into the review of the Big Japan January 13th and 14th joint show thing. I messed that up, but we'll get into it. So, on day 1, January 13th, and again, I believe it's 2 was guts or 2 was gut early. Maybe, am I just putting the word early into my... Was the word early? I'm going to have to look this up on the air, because this is driving me crazy. It was 2 was gat early. I have no idea what that's meant to translate as. Yeah, so we started off the show with the mid card, obviously, because 2 shows, you gotta get the best out of both shows. So the first match we had was Takuya Nomura versus Fuminori Abe. Now these two, both brilliant, great, young strikers, also with some decent grappling. They had a very good match last year. I can't remember. I feel like it was on a Big Japan show as well, but I know that Abe was also part of the DDT roster, so maybe it was on DDT. Anyways, go out of your way to watch that match because that was very good. I saw some people giving that like, not really like match of the year contender, but like, like high 4-star ratings. I wasn't that high, but I thought it was very good. The sad thing is here, this match of theirs was sadly clipped. I believe it was probably like 15 minutes, and I believe we only saw like 8 of it. That's just a rough estimate. But what we saw was very good. Even though it was clipped, I think you should definitely go out of your way to see this. So we started with some, jiu-jitsu-based grappling. Abe introduced the kicks, and then the match got more serious. We got like some shoot headbutts and worked punches. And, I always pop for that stuff, when you start off with the basic sort of strong style stuff. And I know people don't like that term, but you know what I mean by, the generalized term of strong style. But then we actually get the punches and the headbutts. It's like, oh shit, we're not just doing some, not just on some New Japan shit over here. We're gonna, fuck each other up. All the strike exchanges were very clean all around. Stiff kicks from both guys. Nomura busted himself open from those headbutts, because he was the one, delivering them. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's the one delivering them, and busted himself open. People are. It is controversial to talk about the headbutts. I'd only have an issue if it came out that Abe wasn't okay with them. Like, if he agreed to them beforehand, then I'm like, I've got no issue with that. And as long as, it didn't seem like Nomura, at least he didn't bust open Abe with his headbutt, so, I've got nothing to complain about. We got some very good selling from Nomura. He looked really worn out, and it's funny because he carries himself as like a prodigy. He's just got that look about him where he's like, yeah, I know I'm hot as shit. I'll fuck your shit up. I'll throw a stiff kick to your face. But then when he's working from under and he's selling, he does a really good job. It's easy to what's the word, empathize with these guys, especially the young guys, because it's like, I guess for me, it's like, oh no, this poor guy, he's so young in his career and he's so desperate to put on a good show, but now he's just getting destroyed. And it was weird because both guys are relatively young. I'm pretty sure Abe's only like, I think he's only like 25, and I'm pretty sure Nomura is like 22. So, yeah, but both are, both great young guys. We got some suplexes and submission holds come out at the very end, and Nomura got a win via ref stoppage on a rear naked choke, but the form of his rear naked choke was quite poor. He didn't really have the arm behind the back of the neck, and he didn't really have his actual choking arm. He didn't have like the gap of the elbow under the neck. And that's not me trying to like flex like, oh yeah, I know about the proper submissions, guys, but it just looks kind of bad. It's sort of like what do you call it, like 90s New Japan, when someone would lock on a choke, or like any sort of remotely jiu-jitsu based submission hold. And it's just like, for those of us in the future, like we watch UFC, like we know what a proper submission hold looks like. It's just so cheesy. But yeah, so that's the only issue I really had with this match, was that one moment at the end with a like slightly odd looking submission hold. So if that's the only issue I had with it, obviously, it's a pretty good match. I only gave this 3 stars, and that's honestly just because of the clipping, because again, it was very short. I only saw like, I think, not even 10 minutes of this, but if I'd seen the full thing, I probably could have easily gone to, another 3 3/4 stars, which is what I gave their match from last year. In the post match, there was no bad blood, which was, that's cool. I can't remember what match. Oh, it was Kaito Ishida and Shun Skywalker from the Dragon Gate show, and I was going on about, why can't good wrestlers be good friends? And here, luckily, there was no bad blood. There were some headbutts and actual blood, stiff kicks, stiff strikes, but, both guys, I believe they like shook hands, they might have even bowed to each other, they showed respect to each other, so, it was all good. Let's move on, as I can say it properly, to the next match. This was Tajiri versus Tatsuhiko Yoshino. So, Tatsuhiko Yoshino, I believe, is a Big Japan rookie. Hey guys, it's Lewis from the future. Turns out I made a mistake. I'm just going through the editing process now, and I realized I wasn't entirely sure if Tatsuhiko Yoshino was a rookie or a trainee. Turns out he's not. He's been wrestling since like 2004, so that's at least 15 years there. So yeah, whenever I refer to him as a rookie, it is very embarrassing for me. Just ignore that, okay? Let's get back to the episode. By the way, someone pointed out that I've been using the term young lion way too liberally for the various pro-res rookies, and that's the correct term I should be using. There's also trainee, but when I think of trainee, I can't remove that word from my concept of it being from like a general workforce, like a sort of white-collar workforce, like, oh yeah, here's the trainee, I'm gonna teach him how to program computers today, or whatever it is people do in the real world. So I prefer the term rookie, but it's really difficult because, followers of this show know that I'm always going on about how I'm a big New Japan mark, so it's really difficult for me to get rid of that use of the young lion term. But anyways, this was Tatsuhiko Yoshino, the Big Japan rookie, going up against Tajiri, obviously big veteran, big time in WWE, and he's just come back to Japan. I don't think he's just come back, but he's been starring a lot of the big Japanese indie promotions, All Japan and also Big Japan, obviously. This was really way too heavily clipped for me to rate. I actually enjoyed it. And it's weird because I know people had a big issue with Tajiri in these last few years, especially with his reign as the All Japan Junior Champion. I actually thought he had some pretty good matches, like, matches that I would say were usually better than the main events of those All Japan shows. But yeah, so I guess I've always been into his style. Tajiri easily controlled the match with, just easily out-grappling Yoshino. There was no struggle shown by him. He's just playing the, cool, calm, collected veteran role where he's like, yeah, I see you, kid. I've done this shit for, 30 years. There's nothing you can possibly pull out as a rookie that's going to, pull one over on me. He had very smooth transitions into all of his holds. Yoshino started impressing finally. He got some nice strikes and had a nice swanton as well. There was a moment where Tajiri, obviously, he's one of those sacred people who, what's his name? It's not the Great Muta, it's the guy before him. The Great Kabuki, that's it. Where, Tajiri's one of those people who I guess the Great Kabuki, passed on the secret, ancient Japanese technique of the spitting mist. So Tajiri tried that on Yoshino at one point, but Yoshino actually blocked it. And then, sadly, he fell for a second missed attempt. And Tajiri ended up getting a roll-up win. So this was fine. I enjoyed Tajiri's, sort of calm, collected style and his dominance in the early round. And Yoshino looked pretty good at the end as well. Obviously, it's disappointing to have, basically, it was basically a ref bump because I'm pretty sure the ref had to be distracted in some way to allow for Tajiri to get that second lot of missed. But in the post-match, Tajiri, he seemed to be riling up the Big Japan juniors, and it seemed that Yoshino requested another special singles match between him and Tajiri. And I can't find confirmation of this, but I feel like I was on the Big Japan Twitter page and they were advertising like a cruiserweight / junior tournament coming up, or there was some other company's junior tournament where they're going to be Big Japan juniors competing. So I felt like that's what this match was sort of building up, which is why why Big Japan chose to put this match on the Samurai TV airing of these two shows, because they sort of want to build up for whatever this junior tournament is. But again, I couldn't find confirmation of it, but I swear it's out there. I swear there's a junior tournament coming up, and that's why they bothered doing all this. God, I just had to pause because I got a really bad case of pins and needles in my leg. I've only been sitting here for like 10 minutes, and yeah, my leg just started going, and I was in immense pain. Obviously, nothing serious, guys. I think I'm going to be okay. No need to leave your well wishes. Just, leave wrestling-related comments and discussions. I don't need your well wishes, okay? I don't want your fucking prayers or anything. Anyways, let's get on to the next match. This was Kazuki Hashimoto and Yuya Aoki versus Shinjiro Otani and Tatsuhito Takaiwa. Now, only 11 minutes of 19 was shown from this, which is a shame, but this was still very fun. And what immediately sticks out to me when I saw this card was, oh my gosh, yes, the OG New Japan Juniors 90s team. I messed that up. It should have been the OG 90s New Japan Junior team, because Otani and Takaiwa, if you haven't seen their stuff from their prime in New Japan during the 90s, they were phenomenal. They had some great tag matches as well as some really good singles matches in their own right. So I was really excited to see this. And again, even if they are 0-1 boys, I'm pretty sure they were some of the original defectors to 0-1 alongside Hashimoto in 2001, I still associate them with New Japan, even though they've probably been with 0-1 longer, right? Because that's almost 20 years, and when did they even join the New Japan dojo? Anyways, not important. This was a pretty good match. There was a jump from the young boys, Hashimoto and Aoki, early on. Again, Hashimoto, I believe he's like 30, and Aoki is actually the Big Japan rookie, but you know what I mean. The young guys, as opposed to like Otani and Takaiwa, who are probably, pushing 50 very soon. So, they worked over the veterans. Obviously, look, relating back to my 0-1 in Big Japan review, this is an Otani match. So obviously what's going to happen to Otani? What's going to happen to get Otani some good babyface heat? He's going to have his signature foot stomp corner spot stolen. So that's what happened. But Otani ended up firing up. He unleashed some really, wicked chops into Aoki, and then he got his own opportunity to deliver his foot stomp spot, and he got really dramatic with it, really egging the crowd in. He'd bring them up, gesture with his hands, because I think that's what the young guy, whatever member it was of the opposition who did that, they sort of were mocking him. But here, Otani was sort of like, oh, so you're going to make fun of me for this? Well, I'm going to take what you were doing, and I'm going to really embrace it, and I'm going to, kick you in the fucking face, mate. That's basically what he did. So, the crowd was loving Otani. We got some stiff kicks from Hashimoto. It's funny, because when I'm reading my notes, when I think of Hashimoto and Big Japan, obviously I'm thinking of Daichi Hashimoto. Maybe I should do my thing for Okada and Suzuki, where I just called this guy Kazuki, because I didn't have a big association with Shinya Hashimoto, because obviously I only started following New Japan, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? So when I think of Hashimoto, I think of Daichi, and Kazuki, you're just making me confused. Maybe I'm just going to have to call you Kazuki from now on. Anyways, Takaiwa was really impressive. We got his trademark great brainbuster on Kazuki. Again, looking at my notes, I've still got Hashimoto written all over it. I'm gonna call you I'm gonna call you Kazuki Hashimoto, okay? Kazuki, I'm gonna call you Kazuki. So then Kazuki and Takaiwa, they both traded Death Valley drivers and both no-sold them, which was pretty cool. I don't really mind the power up no selling. Oh, I'm gonna take you a big move, but I'm just gonna scream it off and then attack you. I don't mind that, at least if it's done well in the big matches. And then in like the mid card matches, I don't really care. It's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, there was just no reason to have this in a big match. This is just a random mid-card match on a house show. We got another really great Otani spot. He got locked in a single-leg Boston Crab, and he was wincing in pain, trademark amazing Otani selling, and he just gets to the ropes, and he can't, it's like he's struggling to hold himself up because he's pushing his arms out in order to move his head forward towards the ropes. So if he knows if he lets one of his arms go, then, he's going to be so weak that he's going to collapse and not even be able to get the rope. So he ends up, biting the rope, and he just looks totally miserable. And that's just what I love about Otani, just so emotive. Even if you took a screenshot of his facial expressions, he looks very comedic, but in the moment when you're buying into the story of him being beaten up and suffering, it's really compelling. And that's another one of my trademark phrases. No, words. I've totally forgotten. Oh, no, guys, I just forgot what my trademark word was as I was talking about it, but it's compelling. That's my go-to word when I'm trying to think of, why do I enjoy this in wrestling? It's because it's compelling. Anyways, after that, Takaiwa got some really big lariats and a big powerbomb to put Aoki and Hashimoto down. Then both veterans, they finally were fully in control. They started working over the rookie Aoki. Aoki fought both of them off. He had his own dropkick to the back head of of Otani. So he did basically Otani's signature spot. In all of Otani's big matches from the 90s, whenever he finally gets going, he jumps off the top rope from the outside into the ring and hits a big drop kick to the back of his opponent's head. And then Otani, he would always sort of do a fist pump, or clench his fist and scream hell yeah. So that was really cool to see, this cheeky little, what's his name? Cheeky Yuya Aoki, this Big Japan rookie. He's not even, I can't even remember it was actually him, but not only has Otani had his trademark foot stomp in the corner spot stolen, which, everyone does, he's also had his even more famous, what do you call it? Just drop kick from the rope? Is that what you call it? Yeah. He's had his famous dropkick spot stolen from him as well. Can Otani get even? Oh, look, everyone, I just want everyone to respect Otani. Why has everyone got to steal his spots? I know he's an amazing junior and everyone should respect him more than Jushin Thunder Liger, which is actually my real opinion, even though I'm being very sarcastic right now. But look, you just can't steal his moves, okay? You got to have some respect for the guy. Anyways, Otani ended up flooring Aoki with a big lariat, then a dragon suplex. He still couldn't pin him, you know? This rude little bastard, Aoki, he'd stolen his moves, and Otani had done his best to put this, this little dickhead down, but this rookie, he was really determined to not only piss Otani off, but also just, he's like, I know you're a veteran. I know you have like 500 years experience more than me, but you're going to have to work to put me down. And that's the sort of stuff that's really, it makes it really easy to what's the word, to empathize with the rookies, and the Japanese rookies. If you see someone who's, stepping outside the usual boundaries of, throwing forearms and doing those weak sort of, stereotypical yells, you see someone who, whether it's of their own volition or just, the bookers have actually told them, hey, I want you to go do this and stand out in this way. It's easy to really align yourself with a rookie where you see they're trying to like break that rookie mold and actually stand out, because obviously they're not going to just magically become a main roster member just from a single performance. But when you see the rookies in kayfabe trying to step into that main roster role away from the stereotypical rookie stuff, it's really easy to support them. So obviously I came away from this match really supportive of Aoki, being like, yeah, I want to see more of this kid. I want to see what other ways he can impress me. So Otani was showing the usual dismay we'd see from him in the 90s when he's unable to put someone down. He's totally he basically looks like he's about to cry. He looks at the ref, then he sort of looks out to the crowd in shock, being like, oh, come on, why can't I just put this guy away? So he was totally bewildered, but then it was it was like a chop lariat. He looked at his hand, he got the chop position, and then he basically hit a lariat, except instead of curving his fist over, he opened it up and hit him with the side of his palm, with the side, and just chopped him right in the face. Well, over the shoulder, usual sort of lariat position, not really on the neck, not really on the shoulder, somewhere like there between the clavicle. And the crowd was like, no, the announcers were like, oh, chop lariat, basically said that. And he ended up getting the pin. And obviously we got the trademark Otani falling on the ropes as he tried to celebrate. I always love that. And it's funny because the crowd, like, maybe it's not a staple of his, but I know he's done that since the 90s, I'm pretty sure. And it's even more funny now because it's like, oh, crazy old Otani. He's so excited to get a win. He forgets that he's not as spry as he used to be and he can easily, damage himself. And the crowd always pops for it. And not by pop, I actually mean like they freak out when they see him collapse. And I guess you would, but it's like, come on, guys, Otani, that's his thing. He gets overly eager, he tries to celebrate, then he hurts himself and he looks like he's going to hurt himself by going to the ropes and falling down, but then he always catches himself on the way down and still like holds up his fist and celebrates from a very precarious position. It's very funny, it's heartwarming. You know how I was just going on about Yuya Aoki being the like standout of this match and the guy who I was most impressed with? You know what? I take that back. I'm still more impressed with Shinjiro Otani because that dude gets pro wrestling, okay? This guy's probably the best wrestler in the world. That's me being satirical, but he's fucking awesome, and I think everyone should respect him. Anyways, fine match, 3 stars. In the post-match, the veteran showed respect, and this was reciprocated by Hashimoto and Aoki. Hashimoto, I feel like I remember him sort of like being respectful, but also being like, hey, you guys didn't beat me, or sort of being like, hey, I'll challenge you to a match because, at least Takaiwa, I'm pretty sure he still wrestles as a junior. So, we got maybe a bit of attitude from Kazuki Hashimoto. Or was I just remembering that? Maybe I'm getting that confused with another match from another totally different show I watched this week. Anyways, who cares? Now, this is the single match that everyone was looking forward to watching and is looking forward to me reviewing. This was, I'm not sure if it's Violent Giants or Violence Giant, because I feel like on their tights it says Violence Giant. Anyways, oh God, that was going to be the wrong team. This was Suwama and Shuji Ishikawa versus Strong BJ, Sekimoto, and Okabayashi. So, Violence Giant versus Strong BJ. And this was luckily unclipped, unlike pretty much every other match on the show, at least up until this point. Or at least there was very minimal clipping, sorry. So, I paused on my video player, I checked when did this match start, when did it end, and I was like, okay, good. So, this was, everyone was raving about this match, people giving this, match of the year contender status. I didn't think, now guys, don't click off. I know, I can already hear your fingers moving to the X window on the browser or pausing the podcast on whatever your podcast player is and then deleting the podcast. But don't do that. Because I promise, I thought this match was great. I loved it. I don't think it's like, crazy 4 3/4 star match, but I thought this was an amazing match. So there are a few things to consider going into this match. First of all, Strong BJ are the 2-time Strong BJ are the 2-time AJPW World Tag Champs. So they had a run in 2016 and 2017. So that's what made this match interesting, because not only were they going for these titles in their home promotion, but they'd already won these titles before. So it showed that, All Japan, they wouldn't have too much of an issue having Strong BJ win these titles, because they've already done it twice. Another few things, obviously Shuji Ishikawa, he used to be a pretty big mainstay in Big Japan. He was sort of split his time between doing DDT and Big Japan, and this is his first match in Strong BJ. This is his first match in Big Japan since the first show of the year from 2018, and this is Sawama's first appearance since a New Year show in 2016. And interestingly, that was when he actually faced Ishikawa in a tag team match. So both men are back together. They're tagging here and facing off against some other big boys. Obviously, Sawama and Ishikawa are a bit bigger than Sekimoto and Okabayashi. Actually, I think Okabayashi is pretty similar in size. Anyways, this was awesome. Sawama, obviously, he's the one who's much more of an outsider. He doesn't have that Big Japan history cred that Ishikawa does. So he was sort of playing up the booze. Most people seem to respect him because they would be like, oh yeah, that guy with the, half streaked blonde hair, he sort of kept All Japan alive. And, they respect that. So that was cool to see. But that didn't stop Sawama playing heel in this match. Anyways, let's get to actually reviewing the match, shall we? So we started off with, some fine grappling and strength tests between Sawama and Sekimoto. And, I don't really complain about this. I guess I just always point out how pretty much every Japanese promotion follows the formula of, a big match has to start out with grappling. And I understand all the reasons for it. And I'm not even necessarily complaining about it. Like itself, I'm just complaining about how everyone seems to start their big matches the same. So it was really when Ishikawa and Okabayashi got in the ring where the match really started going. We got like big chops, shoulder tackles, and that was when it was like, okay, here's the appropriate tone. We got some big dudes, hard hitters. We didn't need that grappling stuff. Some of the strength test was fine, but it was still it was still essentially just grappling. But now we've got, Ishikawa and Okabayashi, they got things rolling. So stiff strikes started coming out like crazy from all four men. Sawama was playing up the heel really well. He was like illegally choking Sekimoto over the ropes and then appealing to the crowd, being like, hey, what's wrong? Or sort of, I guess he was sort of like, yeah, I do what I want. I'm the All Japan guy. There were some beautiful headbutts and elbows from Ishikawa. This dude, Ishikawa, I used to be really weird on him, and when he came to All Japan, it was really when, I always thought he was good from what I saw of him in DDT and Big Japan, but when he came to All Japan was when I really thought, wow, this guy actually is amazing. And I believe I can't remember who it was someone on the Voices of Wrestling Network, and I know there probably aren't some fans of them. I seem to understand that some in the pro wrestling community, at least on Twitter, some people don't like Voices of Wrestling. I'm a fan, I'll admit that. Hey guys, don't hate me. But someone on there pointed out that Ishikawa really improved in a lot of people's books ever since he got rid of those trash man, trash bag sort of pants, and he got like the little tights. It just makes him look like, I guess, less like a sort of, my typical phrase, like a grimy indie wrestler. He looks way more serious, and this guy is vicious. He delivered a total onslaught of headbutts and elbows and forearms and absolutely everything. And Sawama was doing an amazing job selling from, all these attacks. Ishikawa was playing up the heel as well. Obviously, there's a way bigger dynamic there because it's, the fans are sort of happy to see Ishikawa back, but there was always that sort of quiet sort of resentment from people being like, yeah, we like you and it's good to see you back, but you fucking left us, Big Japan was just getting big, with the death matches and the strong heavyweight scene, and then you left, you went over to All Japan. So when Ishikawa started playing up the heel, that got like quite more heat than just Sawama, because Sawama, it's like, yeah, you're the outsider guy, but Ishikawa, that was the guy who really made his name in Big Japan, and now here he is mocking us as he's going over the two guys that have actually stayed loyal to us. So that was really cool to see. I loved Okabayashi getting fired up because Sawama was having Sekimoto, the story of the match was really him getting totally destroyed for like what felt like 20 minutes, but then Okabayashi would get in the ring and, I've said Okabayashi is probably my favorite of Strong BJ, and that's not a knock on Sekimoto. That's just because I think Okabayashi is one of those wrestlers who has infectious energy. Another person like that, to a lesser extent, is Masa Kitamiya from Noah. I really like that, where someone can just screw up their face and scream, and it's just like, damn, that's so visceral. I just easily connect with that. You just tap into that person's energy. That's what makes it, a great, visual performer. And Okabayashi was great at that. He'd also sort of egg Sekimoto on, while Sekimoto was doing some amazing selling, looking totally dead behind the eyes, sort of like you can just like put a lot of words to his phrases, being like, to his facial expressions, being like, oh, he just looked like, damn, why am I fucking alive? Why am I wrestling? Why can't I be a trash man like Ishikawa used to be in his past? And Okabayashi was great. Sorry, I just covered my covered my face up while I was talking. That's bad etiquette. That's bad etiquette from a professional podcaster. I shouldn't do that. So yeah, Okabayashi, great energy. He was getting worked over on the outside quite frequently while Sekimoto was getting beat down, but then he finally managed to run in, and he got a few spots where he would take down both of Suwama and Ishikawa himself. There was a very impressive moment for Okabayashi as he managed to lift Ishikawa up, various power moves, and Ishikawa, he's the biggest lad in this match. I feel like he's like probably 6'3", and he must weigh like, I don't know if I want to say 300 pounds because I'm terrible with what's it called? What do you bloody Americans call it? It's not the metric system, or is it the metric system? I can't remember, but I feel like that guy is probably close to like 150 kgs, or is that too much? Maybe I'm overestimating that. I'm gonna quickly see how much. Let's check Ishikawa's height and weight on air. That'll be interesting for the fans. Okay, he's 130 kgs, and holy shit, he's 6'5". Damn, this guy is. He weighs less, but he's way taller than I thought. So anyways, what was my point about that? Oh yeah, Okabayashi lifting him up. It's a great visual because Okabayashi is a tank, but he's you can tell he's actually way smaller than Ishikawa. So we got a few cool moments from that. There was a lot of like suplex and power move exchanges between Suwama and Okabayashi, and this made me realize sometimes I think that Suwama is broken down, because I remember it was 2016 where All Japan really started picking up, and I remember at the time Suwama had I believe he had just won the Triple Crown title at their very first show of 2016, and then he got injured and had to vacate the title, and people were sort of being down on him, being like, oh damn, he was good, but now he's come back from this injury and he's way slower in movement. Because I remember All Japan had their big Ryogoku show in Sumo Hall with Miyahara versus Suwama, and people were, going into it, they were sort of depressed, being like, oh no, they're going to put the title back on, the trusted ace, they're going to put it back on, the even more injured, less mobile Suwama. And then after the match, when it was a great match, people were like, oh yeah, it was good, but Suwama just looked, totally not like himself. But in these last 2 years, the attitude around him has changed, and I see that because in the early half of a match, usually Suwama is more likely to focus on, just his character work, sort of like selling. Like he'll still throw out the stiff moves, but he's not as energetic. Not energetic. He's not as active, I guess. But then it comes to these moments where he's just delivering some, big suplexes, big power moves, big strikes, and then I realized, like, holy shit, I understand why this guy was able to carry All Japan and keep them, if not stable, at least, not dead for so long as he did, because the guy has some amazing moves in his arsenal. Again, great dead-eye selling from Sekimoto, and Okabayashi still running into frame to break up pins. Great work from them, alongside, obviously, the great selling from Suwama, as well as the great general power moves from Suwama and Ishikawa. Sekimoto was getting totally destroyed at the end of this match. There was an insane series of, just power move after big strike after big strike, and Sekimoto somehow managed to survive all of it. And another thing that I really like about the general Japanese attitude to pro wrestling is just because sometimes someone will survive a total onslaught of moves doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to get, like a big Superman comeback at the end. Because that's what I would usually find in in Western style booking, more specifically, obviously, WWE, where someone just survives big move after big move, and eventually it's like, okay, I have no idea how they're going to get there, but this guy who's totally getting destroyed, simply because he's kicking out of every follow-up pin, he's somehow going to get the win. But they don't always do that in Japan, in Japanese pro wrestling. Sometimes they'll literally just deflate the crowd. We'll be like, wow, that guy just survived all these moves, but then the next move comes and it's like, oh, okay, I guess they're done. And so I had that in my mind as I'm watching Sekimoto get destroyed. Even though I knew the results of this match, I still had that feeling in the back of my head where it's like, I throw away my memory and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't actually seen this match, even though I actually know the result. And I'm thinking, god damn, Sekimoto's just going to get put away here, but nah, just, keeps kicking out. And again, that's another thing that I really like about, not necessarily the Japanese style of matches, but just wrestling in general. When you can make me forget what I know as fact, like, who's actually the winner of this match, and you can just get me so enveloped in the actual physical, athletic story that I'm seeing in front of me, that's when you know you have a great match. Obviously, that this was one of those great matches. So in the end, Okabayashi, he finally burst in for the big save, and he took out both members of Violence Giant. Everyone was totally flattening each other in the ring right now. It was like a total car crash, of run-in spots, big power moves, big lariats, all the same we've been seeing throughout this match, but still great. Sekimoto, he finally caught Ishikawa's knee. He'd taken quite a few knees, and I don't even know if Ishikawa's one of those people who, as many compliments as I have for him, one issue I have for him, like a few other wrestlers, is I don't know what your finishing move is. He has like that, what do you call it, the Splash Mountain powerbomb. He has the knee strike. He has the Fire Thunder. And I feel like he probably has like an elbow strike or something. He has so many moves, and I don't know which are his finishes. So I never know exactly when to properly pop, because I've seen him finish matches with so many different moves, but I've also seen so many matches where these moves also just don't finish people. So my point being, Sekimoto ate a bunch of knees, and every time it looked sort of, well, I guess I was always a bit, sort of like, oh, am I meant to pop here if he kicks out? Was that his finisher? And the crowd was always pop for him. But this one time, Sekimoto finally caught Ishikawa's knee, and then he got a big series of lariats off that. Then he had a big German suplex, and he ended up getting the win. And I wouldn't say that this felt like a sort of a Superman comeback. I will say it was a bit ridiculous having Sekimoto eat so much offense, not only at the end of the match, but like all throughout the match. I guess him and Suwama both got turns to play the sort of babyface Imperial, but Sekimoto much more so than Suwama. And at the end, he sort of just had like a few big moves, ended up putting Ishikawa away. And I guess it sort of made Ishikawa and Suwama look a bit weak, because Sekimoto survived so much, but then Ishikawa took only, a minute amount of offense compared to what Sekimoto took. But I guess that's the point, because, you got the old Big Japan. Was he technically the old Big Japan ace? I know he was pretty big. I don't think it was actually the ace ever. So, guys, I'm still a bit of a noob to this stuff, okay? Oh, God, I feel disgusting using that word noob in 2019. I'll just use the actual term. I'm a bit of a newbie to Big Japan. I followed them for a while, haven't kept too consistently up to date. But what was my point being with this? I can't remember. I'll just abandon this line of thought. I'll probably come back to it in editing, and I might throw something in, but for now, I'm just going to abandon this. So yeah, great match. It was an absurd display of powerful offense, and everyone just looked great. Everyone had a part to play. No one felt like they were just a hanger-on. No one felt like their tag team partner was carrying them, or that one team was carrying the other. This was just a great, stiff car crash of a match. I wouldn't call this a match of the year contender. And again, people, don't hate me. Please love me, love my show. Give me support. But this was like the first properly great match I've seen since Wrestle Kingdom. And again, Lewis is a New Japan mark. No one's actually said that, but I feel like I have to bring that up myself, sort of like to dissuade, like to defend myself in future. What's the term? Again, I can't think of words when I'm doing this fucking podcast. Anyways, I'm sort of just bringing that up as like preemptive defense, I guess, because but I've been watching so many shows. God, my thoughts are all over the place. I've been watching so many Japanese promotions since, the start of the year. And honestly, this was the first great match. This is my first 4-star plus match since Wrestle Kingdom. And I've been watching, 0-1, other Big Japan shows, Dragon Gate, but this was the first 4-star match. So again, if you think to yourself, wow, but there have been so many 4.5-star plus matches, then again, not to sound like an elitist, which is another one of my catchphrases on the show, but that just shows you how impressive this match was. And again, not to sound like an elitist, but I feel like if you watch this match, I feel like most people who are like fans of pro wrestling already, they're probably going to say, wow, that was at least 4.5 stars. But for me, 4 stars. I guess it's just because I'm better than all of you. That's what it really is. I'm trying to hide it, but you know what? I'm just going to let it out. It's because I'm better than you guys. But again, great match. Check this out. I really hope you get a rematch. But yeah, awesome match. This was obviously the main event of the first night of the show, and now we come to the second night of the show. This was the January 4th show, and what was the name of this? God, I'm so unprepared. It was like Dragon Blood something, wasn't it? Something about combat. Let me check. I'm going to go on Cage Match again, doing some on-air research. It was the Big Japan Mortal Kombat 2019 Dragon Blood show. So, yeah, I did get the title right. What a weird fucking title. Anyways, let's get into the review. So the first match that we saw from the show was our first death match of this entire Samurai TV recording. So this is another one of those really stupid Big Japan titles for a death match. This was a light tubes and gadget board death match. Now, maybe it makes more sense in Nihongo, in the Japanese language, but when I hear gadget board, what the hell does that mean? Anyways, this was the Crazy Lovers, Masashi Takeda, our ex-beloved Big Japan deathmatch champion, and Takumi Tsukamoto, the guy who just challenged for, what's his name? Masaya Takahashi, I believe it is. Again, I'm still getting confused between Masashi Takeda and I believe it's Masaya Takahashi. So yeah, Tsukamoto challenged Takahashi. The match got sort of rave reviews. People mostly thought it was great. I thought it was all right. Here he is taking up with Takeda to go against Ryuichi Sekine or Sekin. I think it's Sakine, versus Toshiyuki Sakuda. And I actually thought that this was a way better match of Tsukamoto's than his actual title match with Takahashi. So again, first death match of the show. We got only 8 minutes of 13 minutes shown, but this was still very good. This was another one of those matches where it's like, if the full airing of the show comes out, and I don't know what's happening with Big Japan Core. Apparently it went down. It's been down for like a month doing some upgrades, but apparently even then, when it was up and running, shows would take like months to get uploaded. So this is another one of those matches I'd really like to see in full. It was really good. We started with some, again, some grappling, weapon spot teasers. It makes a bit more sense in the death matches because it's like, there's so many weapons in the ring, people are afraid to overcommit to anything. But again, it's just a bit silly. Not every match needs to start with an extended grappling sequence. But then suddenly the guys were both like, oh shit, this is actually a death match. And they started just a big light tube war between both teams. They even had both teams breaking the light tubes over their own heads as well as over their partners' heads, sort of a macho off, being like, no, we're fucking crazier than you guys. We're more deathmatch than you, if whatever that means. It's always confusing with the light tubes. Like I remember I saw, like, for the longest time, once I got back into pro wrestling as an adult / a teenager, I thought that the light tubes were literally, like, I saw someone online say that they were just like sugar canes or something because they broke so easily. But then I was like, okay, but how the hell are they getting all these tiny little cuts all over their body? How are they getting so much blood from this? Because if they were blading themselves like that frequently all over their body, you would see. So again, it's just confusing. Like, how can something break so easily but cause so much damage? Anyways, I guess that's just my the wonder of innocence from Lewis. He lives in such an innocent world where he doesn't have to wrestle death matches to make ends meet. God, what is it with me? I guess it's just because I talk so much and it's such a what do you call it? Fuck, I can't even talk right now. I talk so much and I talk at such a quick pace that I always end up tripping over my words, get too much saliva in my mouth, lips end up chapping. Anyways, no one wants to care about this shit. So again, this was a good match. Sakuda, he had got a few good spots to himself. He had a senton off the rope to the outside, but sadly he went over both opponents and ended up landing, pretty gnarly on his back. He got back in the ring, back in the ring, and he was sort of playing this off. Obviously, I don't think this was planned. I think that's just, quick thinking from the wrestlers involved, being like, well, everyone just saw me land flat on my fucking back. I may as well, work this into a story. And again, I do like when wrestlers do that, but it's also confusing because when you see, like, it reminds me of that Ospreay versus Skrull match from, what was it, Sakura Genesis last year, where Ospreay landed on his neck, but then they played his injured neck into the story of the match. So then it's like, oh, am I meant to feel bad for him? But if they're working over it, doesn't that imply that it was part of the match all along and therefore I shouldn't feel bad for him? It's sort of confusing, mixed signals there. Again, I don't need to go into this much detail for a random mid-card match on a Big Japan house show. But what else? What other notes do I have? Oh yeah, this was really cool. Sakuda and Takeda, they started fighting with these really big razor blades, and there are a few things that a few weapons and props and death matches and hardcore sort of death matches that really get to me. Like, I remember there was one Big Japan match from I think a few years ago where the idea was that the mat was replaced with like bricks, and I saw the guys just dropping themselves on the bricks and it just didn't look damaging at all. And I think back to the Big Japan main event between Takahashi and Tsukamoto where like they were landing on the stones, and I was thinking to myself, the stones, they don't look that damaging, but when you get something sharp, again, I can't remember if I've gone into detail about this, but I had like a very bad experience accidentally cutting my tendons when I had just started university when I was like 18 or something. So whenever I see something, it's not like I get trauma from it, it's not like I'm triggered from it, but whenever I see something sharp, especially in a death match and someone's using it really well, like these guys did with the razor blades, then I get like really like, uptight, being like, oh God, that's really going to hurt, but I just can't look away because, they're doing such a good job making these sharp instruments, which are already my trigger, I guess, for the sake of a, I can't even think of that term now. What do you say when you admit you're using a word that you probably shouldn't be using, but it's the next best option? Anyways, that's what I'm using. My point being, razor blades trigger me. They started using the razor blades. There was a really cool spot where, what was his name? Sakuda? He put a razor blade in Takeda's mouth, and Takeda looks totally shocked, and then he gets kicked in the mouth. And obviously, I know the razor blades probably aren't super sharp, and I know that Sakuda's probably not kicking Takeda that hard in the face, but it's just that, it's just that image. It's just the theater of it all, just gets to you. So we got some more, really great spots relating to some deathmatch props and everything. We got a really cool Shiranui off the second top rope through some light tubes from Sakuda onto Tsukamoto. We also got some more great knife usage from Takeda, following on from his usage of that long sort of shanked knife. Not shanked, what's the ribbed? Is that the right term? A ribbed knife that he used on the January 2nd match. And Tsukamoto, he got a sick back-to-back double underhook pile driver on Sakuda through the light tube board, getting the win. And that move, the back-to-back double underhook pile driver, I had to look up the exact phrasing of that move because it basically looks like a backslide, except the guy's upside down and getting dropped on his neck. And I was looking for ages. And again, it's so annoying since Wikipedia got rid of the fucking moves because I'm like, got to think to myself, okay, how do I describe this move? And then it's got to be like, damn, can I think of any wrestlers who actually use this as a finisher so I can immediately just look up, like, oh, what's John Cena's AA called? And it's like, oh, it's a fireman carryover or something like that, or fireman into a power slam. Again, unnecessary little rant there. But yeah, this was a good match. It's a definite deathmatch recommendation. Again, only 8 minutes out of 13 minutes actually recorded. Probably would have gotten a higher rating from there if I'd seen more of the match. We got some great spots shown from the clipped amount of time we actually saw. Some great power moves alongside some generally compelling, again, using the word compelling, use of deathmatch props. As I've said before, some props don't do it for me, like, the bricks or the stones, but sharp stuff, as well as just generally light tubes, as well as light tube boards, that does it for me. That piques my gander. Is that even a term? Did I just make that up on the spot? Anyways, that gets to me in a good way. So yeah, good match. Hilariously, Sakuda in the post match, he flipped off both Tsukamoto and Takeda as he left the ring. And it was funny because they just had this big serious match, everyone's bleeding, light tubes everywhere, people getting cut up with knives, and then he does a sort of childish adolescent thing, being like, fuck you guys, I'm going home, as he flips them off. Anyways, yeah, good match, 3.25 stars. I would say this is probably better than Takahashi versus Tsukamoto. That's probably a very unpopular opinion, probably blasphemous to a lot of Big Japan purist fans, but hey, I can't stop what I like. I can't hate what I like. That's also true. If I'd said I can't hate what I like, that's also fundamentally a priori true. But also I can't help what I like. Next match, we had Takayuki Ueki versus Yoshihisa Uto. I'm surprised they chose to show this match instead of the Big Japan. I keep saying it's confusing. When your tag team is called Strong BJ, I immediately think Big Japan, so I say it out loud. Anyways, I can't believe they chose to show this match instead of Strong BJ versus Miyamoto and Tanaka. That would have been way cooler, obviously, because we also just had Strong BJ become the All Japan World Tag Team Champion, so there'd be a bit more interest in this match against Miyamoto and Tanaka, because it'd be like, oh, are these guys, Miyamoto and Tanaka, going to be the first challengers for their All Japan titles? Obviously, they'll be a bit weird because they'd be earning this shot on a non-Big Japan show, and they themselves are on a non-All Japan show, and they themselves are non-All Japan wrestlers, but it's a possibility. But yeah, they chose to air this match. So Ueki versus Uto, this was a weapon bringing match, and it was quite clipped. There was a weird sort of multi-spiked electric drill, and it's funny because I remember in Ueki's deathmatch tag match with Sakuda versus, I can't remember who it was against, but from the January 2nd Big Japan show, he also had a drill with a really weird thing on the end of it. And I can't remember if it was also this thing that I've written in my notes as a multi-spike sort of thing. But yeah, what is it with Ueki and drills? And not just electric drills, but weird things on the end of them. Anyways, this was another actually decent death match. So Ueki, he got Uto on the ass with that weird multi-spike drill, because that's sort of a thing in Japan. I don't know if it's from, obviously I'm not going to be as much of a weeb to suggest that this is from Naruto, but I know in Japan it's sort of popular to sort of make that gun, you put your hands together and you wrap your fingers in a way that you've got your index finger shooting out and your thumbs upwards, and it looks like you're holding a gun, so like the James Bond sort of thing, oh, I'm going to hold this gun up. But then they basically insert that into guys' asses, and it's like, oh, I just had my butthole filled with something, even though it wasn't actually, but it felt really bad. And so that's, what's my point here? There's basically a staple of, at least of comedy spots in Japanese promotions that I've watched over the years. There'll be a cheeky guy, it's not necessarily meant to be a gay thing either. It's just, I'm going to get this guy, I'm going to put this in his ass, and he's not going to like it. So, yeah, they played on that. So they had Ueki use the drill on Uto's ass. That was pretty funny. There was also this weird rocking horse. I think it wasn't a rocking horse because there was no it wasn't designed to actually rock, but it was like a play horse. But the actual base of it that a kid would sit on, it was covered in barbed wire, and that was used in quite a few spots. So Uto, he dropped Ueki on this barbed wire covered play horse, and then Uto was also driven through a glass pane in the corner. So, yeah, again, this was a weapons-bringing match, and there was a variety of weapons. You had a fucking play horse covered in barbed wire, even if you don't enjoy these death matches in Big Japan, you have to admire the creativity. And even, especially since they're combining like the more garbage, quote unquote, elements of wrestling with like comedy, it's a very weird mixture. But again, I enjoyed this a lot, even if I didn't think it was like a very good match per se, but very entertaining. Both men actually ended up going through the barbed wire fence. There was a great moment when we got a series of light tubes in like a fan shaped. It sort of looks like how you fan out a fan, or maybe even if you think of like a Native American headdress, I guess, it's got like the long feathers. That's sort of like, sorry to pick that example. That's the best way I can think of describing this. It was like the light tubes, and then I believe it was Ueki. Oh no, it was, sorry, just looking at my notes, it was Uto. So he got these like light tubes and like a fan, and he broke all of them over Ueki, and it was like this really, that's like sort of like unintentional ASMR, or what is it, oddly satisfying, that weird subreddit. I don't go on them, I just know of them. And they just broke all in tandem, looks really nice. That's the thing that people don't understand, or at least appreciate enough about Big Japan's death matches. Some of the elements, even though they're trashy, some of them look really artistic. That's a point that needs to be made, I think. So Uto was in control of the match at this point. He took Ueki back into the ring, but then he ended up getting caught in an armbar. And while this was going on, Ueki actually got out some handcuffs, and then he handcuffed Uto's arms behind his back. So then Uto, who was just in control only a second ago, he's now in a very, very weak, precarious position. Uto got up after being handcuffed, and he tried fighting back. He has his hands behind his back, and he's like throwing some kicks. He even delivered a headbutt to Ueki, but it just wasn't doing anything. The handcuffing had totally ruined his offense. He was having a bad day from that point on. So then Ueki actually got the barbed wire playhorse once again, and once again he basically messed Uto up with it. So he puts Uto down on the ground, then he gets the barbed wire playhorse. If I feel absurd saying this, but anyways, he got the barbed wire playhorse down, and then he basically got a chair, and then he knocked the barbed wire part of the playhorse with the chair into Uto's ass. So once again, Uto's had his ass fucked up by Ueki with this gosh darn playhorse. From then, Ueki, he went up to the top rope. He had a diving headbutt for the win. So this was a fun short match. There were a lot of creative spots, a nice use of various different weapons. It's not going to be a storytelling masterpiece. It is still what I consider, quite silly, but, good for what it was worth. Might have been better if they'd shown more of this. But I doubt if I saw the extra 4 minutes that weren't shown that this would have ended up being a great match. This was fine as it was, 3 stars. So now we move on to the second main event of this Samurai TV airing, the main event of the January 14th show. This was Masaya Takahashi, finally got the name right, Masaya Takahashi defending the BJW Deathmatch Heavyweight title against longtime BJW Deathmatch Heavyweight Champion Ryuji Ito. So, the gimmick here for this deathmatch was 344,440 tax in this match. That was the gimmick. There were going to be 300,000 plus tax. I have no idea what the significance of that number is. Maybe it's literally just that, I think I saw something online. I'm not sure about the timing of this. I thought maybe this was for future shows, but I believe that Big Japan, either for this match or at least right now, is crowdfunding getting tax for their future performances. Or maybe it was Light Tubes, actually. I think it was Light Tubes. Someone pointed out, I saw some English translator I follow, they were like, oh, please everyone support Big Japan, donate your either Light Tubes or tax. I can't remember what it was. But well, that just brings me back to the question, why this number of tax? Was that literally just as many as they could afford, or is there some significance for the net number? I probably don't need to spend more than 10 seconds on this, even though I already have. But yeah, this was a good match. Wasn't blow away. Once again, I enjoyed this more than Takahashi versus Tsukamoto, and I'm seeing a lot more impressive stuff from Takahashi, obviously, because I thought the match with Tsukamoto had some good moments, but it wasn't super good. But this was quite a good match. So it was short at only 14 minutes. Luckily, like the Violence Giant versus Strong BJ, it wasn't clipped. At the start, you got both guys. I believe we might have had some of my trademark favorite moments in wrestling with some grappling, but then both guys formed an X in the ring with all the tack trails. And then we got some more grappling. I know at this point because I have in my notes that they rolled in it. And so then they started going through their usual grappling. And obviously you got tacks all over the place while they're like, trading arm bars and, trying to, get guard and take control, take top position. They're like getting tacks all up in them. And, tacks is another sort of easy prop of choice in death matches that can really just easily get my cringe factor. And when I use the word cringe, I meant it in like a good way, like me being like, oh god, that's so terrible, but I can't stop watching. So tax is another good way to get that going. Then the light tubes started coming out. They're broken on hands, thrown into ropes, all those light tubes breaking. That was pretty good. There was a baseball bat covered by Ito. He covered it in the tax, and that was pretty cool. Obviously, it's a bit weird because if you cover it in tax, then you know that the tax themselves, the sharp bits, are actually probably going to be pointing into the bat itself, or else how else could they pick them up? Unless there's some like electric magnetic, sort of thing. I wasn't very good at science in school, as you guys can tell. Maybe there was something there where like the actual pin, like the actual shiny like shield part of the pin. Look at me try to describe tax, but the actual non-pointy bit of the tack was somehow stuck to the bat through some magnetic thing, and then you could still have the actual spikes when shoot out when the bat was used. But anyways, it was still like a cool visual moment. Ito was easily in control. He just continued working over Takahashi with the tacks and light tubes in various ways. Then Takahashi ended up firing up. We got both guys pouring out all the tacks in the middle. Both guys sort of hit preempted drop kicks, the trademark. Again, I'm going to have to go for a New Japan reference where Okada goes for the drop kick, but actually, you know what? This is beneath me. I don't even need to use an Okada reference here. I don't need a New Japan reference, because if you watch even like a minimal amount of Japanese pro wrestling, you know this spot. I'm sorry, guys. I thought badly of you. I thought you would need a New Japan reference to get this, but I should have respected you guys more. So yeah, both of them went to hit drop kicks, but both times each of them would hold on to the ropes. The person who's meant to be running into the drop kick. So both guys sadly took like a full on flat back bump on these tacks. They were reacting, as you'd expect with guys in death matches. I always find it funny how. Again, I'm still using that as a crutch phrase, but I do find it funny how they're deathmatch wrestlers, and obviously they're theatrical performers, so they have to play up the pain of like all the deathmatch elements. But it's funny because it's like you got a guy who's been wrestling in death matches for like 20 years, but then he gets a few tacks in him and he's screaming out like mad. And obviously you want that. You don't want them to just totally no-sell it, because then that takes away the entire point of having a death match. But again, it's just like you sort of think to yourself, okay, this guy's got scars all over his body. You don't think he's built up some sort of pain tolerance at this point? Again, an unnecessary point by me, but just want to think about. There was a cool moment where Ito, he actually hit the rolling cradle. And if you're a Tekken 7 fan, or just a Tekken fan in general, you'll know this as King's rolling death cradle. Yeah. And so he hit that, and it was funny because Ito himself seemed to be the one taking more of the brunt of all the tacks, as he was more centered, obviously, because he has to roll Takahashi on the outside, and I'm pretty sure I remember more of the tacks being in the middle. So Ito was actually putting himself in more pain, if anything, by forcing himself to roll through all those tacks. But again, maybe the idea there would be, he's willing to take a lot of pain, even if it only dishes out a smaller amount of pain to Takahashi, because that's how badly he wants to beat him. I think it was probably just a bit of a mess up. Even then, it wasn't a big deal. Why am I making such a big deal of this? I always do this. I praise the small things that don't really matter, and I make a big deal out of the small things that don't really matter. I'm a silly boy, I guess. It was very cringeworthy just watching both guys crash and glide through all these tacks. As I've already said, tacks are an easy, just immediate, placing on the cringe factor for me. There was a brutal missed moonsault from Ito into the tacks, and you think like it's bad enough watching these guys just grapple and sort of slowly roll around in the tacks, because then you can be like, okay, they're probably not getting all the tacks in them, even though you could see both guys were getting tacks, a decent amount of the tacks over them. But then when you're actually landing with impact on these tacks, it's like, okay, shit, that's probably going to hurt quite a bit. And it wasn't just like all the tacks that he was hitting these tacks with such, impact from his moonsault that they weren't even getting a chance to hook in, because they clearly were going through his clothes and you could see blood all over him. There was a big frog splash from Ito onto Takahashi with the light tube pack on top of him, as well as the tacks underneath. I actually think that, I believe the commentators called Ito's frog splash a dragon splash, I think. That's a pretty cool name, because I don't have too much, not that I think he's a bad wrestler, but I don't have any major positives to point out about Ito. He seems like a pretty standard deathmatch wrestler to me, and I think he has such a following just because he's one of the original sort of like young lions to come. Sorry, I'm still using the term young lion. I think he's one of the original rookies to come through the entire Big Japan system and become their ace for so long. So I think that's why people really praise him a lot. But I will say one thing I do find very impressive is his frog splash. He's just got a great movement to it. There were some big suplexes, German suplex, an STO, and a judo hop, all onto the tacks from Takahashi onto Ito, but somehow Ito just survived all of it. You don't get to become the Big Japan deathmatch ace for nothing. You got to be a big strong boy for that. Then Ito ended up falling to a jackhammer onto a light tube pack with tacks beneath, and again that's sort of following on to what we saw from the January 2nd show where who was it again? I'm forgetting the names. No, it was Takahashi versus Tsukamoto, and basically Takahashi, he hit Tsukamoto with a jackhammer, and there was like the stones, the tacks, and all the broken light tubes underneath, and it's meant to be like all these dangerous items are gonna inflict. Sorry, I don't even have a stutter. Guys, I swear, you probably think I'm an idiot and that like I have a stutter in real life, but it's only when I'm podcasting. I just get nervous when I podcast. Anyways, Takahashi hit Ito with a jackhammer, put him through the light tube board. Was it light tube boards or light tubes? Yeah, light tube board. No, light tube pack. There's a big difference. Light tube pack with tags ended up getting the win. So this is a pretty good match. Some cool individual spots. I think some of the earlier death matches on the show were maybe slightly better. I really enjoyed that the weapon bringing match with Takeda, and that's not just because Takeda is like the only guy that I know from Big Japan. I know it probably sounds like that because in my Big Japan reviews I always what's the term? I always end up drawing to him and being like, oh yeah, he was so great. But I just genuinely think he's a great wrestler. And yeah, I actually thought that match was slightly better, but this was still good. I gave this 3.25 stars. In the post match, what was really cool was Asami Kodaka. He literally jump attacked Takahashi. He jumped from the top rope. I can't remember if he had a drop kick or he just had like a diving sort of where the wrestlers put their hands together and it's like they're doing like a double downward like hammer strike. Anyways, he attacked him, called him out. So we're going to have a match between Asami Kodaka and Takahashi, and this is going to be on January 27th in Nagoya. So that'll be really cool. Kodaka was someone who I also took a while to get into, but then I've seen like his big matches, and I think it's awesome how he mixes sort of high-flying big spots with general death matches, because usually with the death match guys, at least in Big Japan, I find they're more sort of dad bod sort of style. They're more likely to be sort of out of shape, more on the rounder side, maybe a bit taller. But Kodaka, he's got he's like the junior style. So yeah, that'll be a really interesting match. I'm still not sure how I feel about Takahashi. I think he's been a decent champion in the 2 title matches I've seen thus far in 2019. It'll be cool to see what Kodaka can get out of him, because I understand that Kodaka is quite big in the deathmatch scene in general. Obviously, I know that, and yeah, it'll be cool to see what he can get out of Takahashi. So that brings me to the end of this review. Okay, so we're just over 1 hour, or just under 1 hour, depending on how much I have to edit this, which you guys won't understand. You guys just don't understand my struggles. Anyways, let's just do a quick wrap up. So if this was like one single show, obviously I would have restructured it so that the matches were in different order, but this was a very good show. I'd give this, like, as the Samurai TV airing of the 2 shows itself, that is a 7 out of 10 to me, because the first show on the 13th, this was very, very good. You had a strong undercard. What was it? Nomura versus Abe. That was a good but short match, 3 stars. Tajiri versus Yoshino. That was fun, even if it was really too short to rate. Hashimoto and Aoki versus Otani and Takaiwa. Again, this was a match that really suffered from being clipped, but this was another, decent match. That was 3 stars. Then, obviously, Violence Giant defending the All Japan World Tag Team titles. It's way easier to say All Japan World Tag Team titles rather than AJPW. It's just such a mouthful, especially when I'm under pressure. I'm trying to podcast. I'm trying to impress random people around the world online in an audio format. Anyways, this was a great match. Definitely go out of your way to watch this. This is probably going to be a match of the year contender for a lot of people. I gave this 4 stars, and again, that means it was great. I know people like to throw 4 stars at like any match these days, and they'll probably even throw like 4.5 stars at any match that's sort of decent. But look, trust me, I'm the elitist. When I give 4 stars to something, that means it's great. I'm going to be thinking about this match for a while. This was awesome. So if I had to rate the first day of these 2 shows, obviously I didn't see the entire all those matches from that show, because, it was edited and cut up and everything. But I would have to give that the 7 out of 10 because it was just so good. Then we have the second day. This was a bit more disappointing. This was sort of for me, this was equal to the the 2nd of January show that everyone really loved, which I thought was all right. I thought this was another all right show in of itself. We only saw 3 matches. So we had Takeda and Tsukamoto versus Sekine. Is it Sekine? Is that how I pronounce it? Yeah, versus... I think it's Sekine, yeah, versus Sekine and Sakuda. This was another decent match, a pretty good death match. Probably should have been a bit longer, but, decent, 3.25 stars. Then we had Ueki versus Uto, another death match, pretty good. Another one that was probably a bit too short, but I don't think it would have been that much better if I'd seen the whole thing. I gave this 3 stars. Then the main event, Ito versus Takahashi. Again, a death match. I honestly didn't expect myself to like this one as much as I did, because I've sometimes found some of Ito's death matches a bit tedious, but this was decent. I gave this 3.25 stars as well. And if I had to rate this day, the 14th of January show, and again, I didn't see the entire matches, those will probably come out in future as Big Japan Core uploads all their shows, but I'd give this a 6 out of 10. So put that together. I just can't wipe off the all these matches, I can't think of a bad match. Like, did I, from like all the serious matches, excluding the matches that were that we only saw 4 minutes of, I can't think of there being any mediocre matches. Like, everything was all right at worst and great at best, with everything in the middle being pretty good. So yeah, I have to recommend this. This is, if you want to watch Big Japan, I'd definitely recommend this over the January 2nd show. And I know I'm a minority in that, but I'm at least grateful to know that I'm not a minority in thinking that Violence Giant versus Strong BJ was, at least thus far, is the Big Japan match of the year. So again, if you only have time for if you only have 30, maybe 40 minutes to spare, and you can't be bothered watching an entire 2-hour Samurai TV show, then just watch Violence Giant versus Strong BJ. Even if you don't follow Big Japan at all, even if you've never seen it, go out of your way to watch that match, because this was awesome. Just to sum up my new little thing where I'm sort of at the end pointing out the wrestlers who impressed me the most, my sort of favorite matches. Again, I've already mentioned it. Violence Giant versus Strong BJ. Can't go on about that enough. For my standout wrestlers, I can only really, since there was only really one great match, I have to pick Ishikawa, because the dude is just a total monster, always causes rampage, amazing stiff strikes, he's got great atmosphere about him. He is when I think of a monster, and not just like a big guy who's just big and just plays off their size, sort of like Fale, who I think is, I would say he's overrated, but no one really rates him at all. But I'd say, I guess he's a bad wrestler. Anyways, not to get on Fale, but yeah, when I think of a good monster, I think of Ishikawa. And I also want to give some plaudits to Sekimoto. He had some great selling, and even if he's not my favorite member of Strong BJ, I really appreciated the role he played here in the tag match main event of January 13th show, just working from under, showing fire, and eventually getting the win. That was really cool. So yeah, Ishikawa and Sekimoto, my 2 standouts. So this finally brings us to the end of the show. Hey, it was just over an hour, which is what I'm aiming for. I'm going to go edit this now, and again, look forward to the future episodes I've got. Going to be doing some previews and other reviews that I mentioned at the start of the show. Not going to repeat myself. Hey, far be it from me to repeat myself. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a repeater. Anyways, check me out on Twitter at puregradePuro. Puregrade, Puro. It's annoying. Twitter fucking hates me. They won't give me those extra 4 characters for the at thing so I can have Puregrade ProRes. But whatever. Fuck them. Check me out on Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube. Just search Puregrade ProRes. I should be the first thing that shows up. I'm working on getting the show on some other podcatchers, but it's I feel like I've got a decent sort of small-ish audience right now. Not that that's necessarily a great thing, but it's cool to just experiment with having sort of minimal views and see how the show sort of grows before I guess start advertising it even more. I'm probably going to post this on a few subreddits. Hey, if you came from the subreddit, sorry for spamming a subreddit that you probably quite frequently. It's just I don't know where else I can advertise this stuff, And hopefully you found my analysis and discussion somewhat interesting. Again, leave comments, guys. If you have anything remotely related to wrestling or what I've talked about today, which is obviously wrestling, leave a comment, because look, there's no one for me to talk to. I get maybe 2 comments a week from these episodes. So look, if you want to let me know something, or you want to ask me a question, if you want me to mention it on the show, I can do that. If I at least think it's a question worth addressing on the show, I'll probably have a segment at the end of whatever next show I do to address that. But yeah, let's have some audience interaction going, So yeah, that's all from me for this episode, guys. I'm going to go and finish that January 5th Wrestle 1 show. I'm going to be doing a review of that next. Going to be doing the... Oh God, I'm already repeating myself. Hey, I'm just telling you guys my general plan. So yeah, gonna watch that show, gonna review that very soon. Also, been watching some Noah from 2002. I've been working my way through that. So yeah, that's gonna be the rest of my day. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll catch you guys later. Peace. Check it out later. See you guys. Peace out. Laters.